are recording.
Yes.
Welcome, Emily. This is so exciting. My very, very first. I announced the very first podcast guest is Emily Cheung. I'm so happy.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun. I love that you're doing this podcast.
Yes,
You
I
were
know.
born to be a podcaster.
Was I?
Yeah.
Okay. I love this. I love it. I need the championing. We all do, right?
Right. All about it. Here for it. Raise each other up and sip cups of
This
tea.
is why, for those of you watching, why I had Emily on first, because she has got this energy that honestly, it's quite tricky to find this energy out there, and it comes naturally to you. We're going to see how. Maybe there's a morning routine you're doing or something. But all right, so Emily, welcome to the Wingwoman Podcast. You are a pretty extraordinary woman. I want to hear your story, and I want you to share with us a bit about where you started, what you're doing now, and the incredible PR company that you're running and working with some incredible talent that I'm obsessed with. So share with us, where did you start?
Well, thanks for that intro. That's very kind. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I started, I didn't really know that I wanted to work in music. My boyfriend, when I was at uni, was a muso. He was a full-time muso, a bass player, now husband, actually. And then he was always in a band full-time, so gigging around all the time, always on a plane, and that was always fun. And I'd get to his shows. But I studied journalism and PR at uni, and then got a job whilst I was still at uni working in PR for the Australian Bridal Service.
Whoa.
Yes.
So different.
And then while I was there, actually, one of my mates at work's sister was the promo manager for Sony in the Melbourne office.
Okay.
She was looking for a coordinator. And she's like, I've been through all these applications and I can't find the right person, but your mate Em loves a chat and she loves music. Would she be interested in applying? And I was like, yes. So I applied and very luckily got to skip through. I think they got 200 applications and I just got straight to the interview process, which through my life, I never, ever got to interview process. And I was always like, if I could just get to interviews, I know I can get this job. But like just little things, like when I was at high school, I remember all my friends got cool jobs and I was like, I want to work in jetty surf selling clothes. No one would give me an interview. I ended up waitressing in a Thai restaurant. It was not cool, but it was, delicious. But yeah, so then I got the gig at Sony and that was when I was just on 20. I remember I turned 21 when I started at Sony.
Wow.
Yes. And then, so that was in the Vic office in Melbourne.
Okay.
So I was coordinator for all the promo pips. And then I loved it. I worked hard and put in the hours, and I think they really recognized that. And that was through the pretty intense Sony era where music was thriving, and it was a big office. There were like 25 staff in Melbourne. And then through my time in Melbourne, I think I was there for maybe 18 months, and then Dennis saw something in me and invited me to go and run PR, point on PR in WA in Perth. So then I went to Perth. I moved my life to Perth, not knowing anyone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was 22 and hit Perth. It was awesome. Ran the Perth office. It was a great team over there. West Coast beaches was such a great lifestyle choice. And most of the international artists would fly through Perth. So it's really fun, when you're in your early 20s, meeting all the cool artists at the airport and taking them out for beers. And then I had some extraordinary experiences looking after some of my favorite bands. I got to take Incubus surfing for a couple of days, like really fun stuff.
Terrible work.
Calling it work. Yes.
Terrible.
And I was young back then, and really that was, I was happy to live and breathe work. I didn't know anyone anyway. All my friends became all my media peeps. So I'd go into radio and they became my pals. The industry's so small and beautiful and fun that everyone takes you under their wings. So all my friends became my work people, and then it just made work fun. And it was just, we'd all go to gigs together, and then we'd, hang out on the weekends, and then on Tuesdays I'd go to radio and present them with all the new Sony music, and it was so cool. So that was like my training ground, I would say. And then I came back to Melbourne. I did 4 years in Perth, and then I came back to Melbourne and ran the Melbourne PR office. And then I left and started my own thing.
That's incredible. So how long have you been running On the Map PR?
Yeah, so I started on the map in 2012. So it's been
Oh,
12
wow.
years.
Okay.
Been a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
You've been doing PR for how long now in total?
So right, since I was 21. So I started in PR when I was 21 and I just turned 40. Ooh.
Celebrating you. I
All
didn't
right.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's like what, 19 years in PR.
That's pretty amazing to have. One of the things I love about the women on this podcast is the decades of experience they've got in the industry. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty mind blowing, and you must have seen some really big shifts happen within the industry over time as well.
Definitely. Like even when I left Sony, there were 4 full-timers in the office. So as I mentioned, when I started, there were like 25 of us, I think it was.
Wow.
And then when I left the Melbourne office the second time, yeah, small, very small office. And that's just the shift in music. And in that time, everything moved. When I first arrived, it was all CDs. We would service media with CDs. And then, we've seen a shift to streaming. And then, and now we're seeing a shift back to vinyl as well, like a lot more vinyl. All of our bands and artists will release on vinyl now because it's such a great merch opportunity. It's where you can make your money if you're a live touring artist. So yeah, I've definitely seen the shift. And I feel like offices are getting a little bit, maybe there's more, teams are growing again because we're finding our feet. It is a strange time in music still, especially post-COVID. But yeah, it's leveling out a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so wow, that's an extraordinary career. You must have so much knowledge around PR. Wow.
Well, it's PR has changed. The face of PR has changed so much too. Like we're really moving into. Well, when I first started, I joke, my colleague Fee Peacock, we've been work wifeys for the entire time. She started at Sony a couple of months after me.
Wow.
And she left and had babies. And then I started this business and then she started working alongside me here. And we've been working together for 19 years.
How good is that?
So good. And I was joking to her because she started earlier than me. She's got 5 extra years in the game than me. She also started, she ran I think it was like a brushes store or something when when she was 19 years old. So she's been doing it for longer than me. She's got great experience. And I joke because when she started in PR, I think she started at Warner or Shock, and she used to send press releases by fax machine.
Oh,
you are ancient. She's not. She's 5 years older than me.
that is hilarious.
But, this is the state of change and evolution within the industry, and also within technology and music particularly as well. We now, we can blast a press release by a carrier like MailChimp and it can go far and wide. You don't have to send individual emails. It's, all that. So it's cool.
Crazy.
Yeah. Technology has moved with us and we all adapt.
Yeah. We have to, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about the artists you work with now and like how invested you get into their business and their success. Like how does it work?
Yeah. So I actually don't even know how everyone else does it, but the way that I started my business was
something right.
Well, something, I hope so. We're sticking around. We're still here 12 years later. We charge a fee for our services. We don't take we don't take percentages. So you pay for our services and we will work the PR to get it sold. So even if we're working with an indie artist who is, just trying to build a brand awareness or make a name for themselves, to whether or not, whether it's a stadium artist like we're working the Kid Leroy tour. So, it varies. We save one spot on our roster every month for a full indie artist because that's when I left Sony, that was something that I was quite passionate about. Seeing there's so many emerging artists out there, great talent, but how do they get their start? How do they get their leg up? And I think it comes from having someone champion them in the industry and someone believe in them. And for us, we like to do that. We have the capacity to do it for an indie artist every month. We make the room for it on our roster.
That's so cool.
So that's fun. And then we get around them pretty hard, and we give them that month that's the opportunity for them to pick our brains and to use that time to learn as much as they can about the industry.
Right.
Use us, however that is. You can call me every day. I always say this to my indies, call me every day. Some of them do. Sometimes I'll be the one checking in with them. Is there anything you want to learn about this? Or did you have any questions about this process or how we achieve this? Or even if it's just really in-depth feedback around this win is a really good look for you guys, we should use it here. or I guess it's kind of like a management hat that we put on for that artist for the month, and we really try and direct them and give them that attention and
Wow,
their
that's
knowledge on the industry
incredible.
whilst doing their PR.
Yeah, that's like priceless. Daily access to Emily. That's cool.
Right.
Your
Yeah, and
team.
it's
Wow.
really it's super handy. And I sit on I do some mentoring and stuff, and sometimes as part of that, like Women in Music, and it's mentoring sessions that I sit in with emerging artists. And when the indie kind of gets that, as you said, on tap, they can call us for anything. We can strategize the plan moving forward. We can timeline out a release. It might just be learning about media and why we do this and how we move through to that.
Yeah.
But just an opportunity to go how, why, soak it all in, learn it all, ask anything, and I am an open book.
Yeah, yeah. And you must get to know them, like, and what their biggest challenges are, and at least be able to help put their minds at ease a little. Is that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for that, like, for example, our indie spot last month, we still communicate. It becomes a family. I'm still available, less available when I'm not active, but they share their wins with me and their dreams. And for the indie act last month, it was a band called Chutney, and they're really different for us. That we worked a cover for them, a really cool Britney Spears cover of Toxic.
Oh, wow.
I'll have to send it to you. It was a cover of Toxic, but it was the band Chutney are a klezmer. They're like full horn section, really party band, kind of like Think the Cat Empire. But they have this great vested interest and knowledge on like strings. So the main guy is a violinist and he's incredible. And so he did this composition. It was called Toxic Moonlight, actually. And it was like Britney Spears Toxic with Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata blended. It was so good. And I don't work covers, but I could not say no. So if anyone's listening, you should go and check this out. There's a great video as well. And then they had a great singer do the vocals too. So it was super cool. And anyway, their dream was, they were like, oh, we just need to grow our live audience and get some great shows, because our live show is quite compelling. We've got a great energy, and they really do. And it just so happened, I think we spoke, they were like, oh, we'd love to support the Cat Empire or Melbourne Ska Orchestra. And we just so happened to be talking to Melbourne Ska Orchestra at the time about working their 21st birthday tour last week. And so I just pulled some strings and spoke to some people, and then they jumped on the support for the Melbourne Ska Orchestra tour, which is just happening now. So that's the kind of thing we can do for our indies, whether it's putting a team around them, a full team, introducing them to distributors, introducing them to publishing houses, or whatever it is they need, management, booking agents. We can really work in with that month to try and put a full team around them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we kind of, to make it sustainable for them. And
that's so amazing.
It's kind of like I guess in speaking about it now, it's kind of like we curate the roster based on, firstly, always we have to be able to justify our fees, but also around indie spot is around who do we think is going to still be doing this in 10 years? Who could, seeing the indie really grow on a fast trajectory. Like, it's so satisfying for us. We worked with Montaigne back in the day in that indie spot capacity. And then she thanked us at the Arias when she got breakthrough artist. And we're like, this is why we do it,
Yeah, those
twice the hours, you charge half the amount.
Yeah.
But the win is a really special win.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those moments are, and that's why when I speak to a lot of people, it's those moments that keep us in the music industry. Like,
totally. It's a hard industry, right? It's a slog as well.
Well,
it's
that's why we're here. We're talking honestly about this today.
Totally.
We can swear if we want. Okay, so that brings me to, we're going to talk a little bit about lifestyle and balance, because you're a mum. And one of the things, I work with a lot of women in the industry. Some are mums, some obviously are not mums. And then I work with artists who aren't even sure if they can have children because of the nature of what they do. And so they really question whether that's something, it's actually a problem that they.
That's really sad. That's
sad. It is sad. And as you know, like most women in the industry, when they turn 20, they feel old. Like artists over 20 feel old. So it's like, how do you, what could you help some of those women with? Because you and I both have, I have a child, you've got three.
Yeah.
And I see your Instagram. So how do you balance all of it? And what would you suggest? What can you strongly advise in this?
I strongly advise that if you want to have children, you have children, and
Yeah.
then the rest will follow. You know, in life, you can't let. Actually, I sat in on an awesome Kid Leroy interview just on Friday, and
Oh,
I wrote a quote down that he said. He's so wise. He's just turned 21, and he said, "I realized I can't let my anxieties make decisions for me."
uh-huh.
So that's so apt for what we're talking about now.
So true.
And I really, really believe that. It resonated and I clocked it because I was like, wow, that's so huge. So many people need to know that.
It's
And it
100%.
comes, yeah, write that down.
I'm not kidding,
And
right?
it's true. When, you know, when you're 20, you're in the prime of your life, you're 20. It makes me really sad to hear that people feel like they're aging if they're if they're getting to 20. If women feel like at 20, oh no, I don't have much time left, that sucks. We need to change the narrative
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
Because I agree that society does seem to make it look that way because, you know, some of the most successful male artists are older.
Yeah.
And
So true.
there's a real gender age gap thing about what's supported in the industry. And I
Yeah.
think we need to change that narrative. We all need to stand up and speak about it. The best thing we can do is speak about it. Hey, get the conversation
Yeah.
started.
Oh, 100%. Because it is a real anxiety that I see and it's traumatizing. Like,
Wow,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, and it's really easy for me to sit here and go, if you want to have babies, have babies. But I guess in my story, I had to put a plan around myself to be able to do what I do and have babies. So I worked for, you know, a great part of, I worked my 20s, I worked at Sony. And
Yeah.
then I was like, right. I then married said boyfriend that was the musician when I was at uni. And we were talking about kids. And I was like, well, I can't have kids at Sony. You know, unfortunately, that I was there through the era. I loved my Sony years. It
But
taught me
isn't that
everything.
powerful that you just said that? Like that's exactly right. I can't have kids while I work at Sony.
No working mother returned to their job at Sony. It was a redundancy. Fee, who I work with, my work wifey, she told them she was pregnant and yeah, you don't return to your job, unfortunately. And it was just you know what's sad? It was just the known and accepted thing. It didn't even bother me at the time. I was like, oh yeah, you just don't get your job back if you want to have babies. If you go and have a baby, you don't get your job back. It wasn't even a thing I
Wow.
used to be cranky about. It was just we all
I
just
think,
accepted it because I
yeah.
think my years that I was at Sony, I think there was something like 6 or 7 women that went and had babies and came back to a redundancy package. So
Okay.
not a single person went and had a baby and returned to their job while I was at Sony. And that was just, we all knew if you had a baby, your job was done. So I knew that I wanted kids. And I was, you know, late 20s and thinking about it. So it was time to put my plan into action. So I left Sony and then started my own business and had all 3 of my babies whilst running my own business. Very lucky that I've got a great supportive team that were able to continue to run the
Yeah.
business. But I had relatively short periods away from work. Like for my firstborn, I had 11 weeks off before I returned full time. Yeah, it's a lot.
Trying to navigate like leaving the house and you have
Right. Yeah. Well, I was really lucky because my partner wanted to do the stay-at-home dad thing. So we have a really unique setup.
nice.
Yeah, so he had the baby and I went back to work. And our office is in Collingwood, you know, it's 10-minute drive down the road, really easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard. There are challenges. I definitely was in the lunchroom expressing, and you know, some days I'd forget to bring the milk home, and I'd be like, oh no, we were
Ah,
in a shared office, and I was like, oh no, who's gonna find my breast milk in the fridge?
hopefully not drink it.
Don't drink it. No, they wouldn't have drunk it. It was in.
Um,
But yeah, there are definite challenges that come with being a working mother. But I would say to anyone that's considering it to push through because it's so worth it. And you know, I'm out the other side of it. I'm lucky my youngest is 4 years old.
yeah.
But yeah, I definitely could not imagine life without them, and
Yeah.
it's been
Amazing.
doable.
You said just a minute ago that you left Sony and just started your own business, which sounds so easy. And look, I did the same thing. I left corporate and started my own business. I'm still here 5 years later and
Yeah.
like thanking all the gods. But what was that transition like for you? Because I work with clients who are starting side hustles or
Mhm.
interested in starting, you know, like obviously with the music industry, one of the issues for women is there's just no jobs. So
Mm.
the ones that are at the top where they're fully qualified, they just don't have the ability to get that work. And so if they want to earn more money and have the freedom, it's like, I want to stay in music, but I need to either leave or, you know,
Mm.
start my business. So I guess you had a lot of contacts, but what was that transition like for you? How did you manage that and then be
You know, I'm
successful?
so glad I did it when I was younger, because you know when you're young and you just have
It's
this
like, I can do anything.
false, yeah, this false sense of, well, if it doesn't work, I'll do something else.
Mm,
So I was
it's
really,
so true.
yeah, I just had this, but I think in my gut, and I really trust my gut. I really had this sense of,
I
"Ah,
love that.
I can do this." And I was very lucky that I had a lot of media support me. And
Okay.
so I left, and what we do is we talk for a living, right? Our relationships are our
True.
media. We have friends that we then can talk to our friends about with our, you know, put our artists in front of the media who are our friends. They'll help us out. So when I went out on my own, not heaps of people were doing it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was that time in music where things were shrinking. But yeah, it was a little sweet spot. I think I got pretty lucky, actually. In hindsight, I would say I definitely got lucky. But yeah, I had that false confidence that I could do anything. Why not? I was young. If it didn't work, it didn't work. I'd go and
Good
work for a
job.
label again. Yeah, I thought I'll go and work for a label. Um,
Yeah.
I know that I'm good at what I do. I've done it my whole life. All I've done is work in music PR. So I can back myself on that. I know what I'm doing. And I'll just get a job for a label if I don't like it, if I make no money, if I can't survive, if I'm eating pasta and rice and I feel like I need some protein, I am going to go and get a job.
I'll hit hubby up.
Yeah, right, right. But yeah,
Um,
because of that, I think it gave me the confidence to give it a shot. And in giving it a shot, I very quickly realized that there were lots of people around me that were going to refer work to me. And,
right.
I'm going to name check one
Powerful.
person in particular. Frank Verasso gave me heaps of work.
Okay.
He was the one that gave me the confidence to go, just do it, because he said, I can refer clients to you. I will refer clients to you. And that gave me the
Okay.
confidence that even if he could give me one every month or two, then the rest I would just hustle for. And
Okay.
in and I was very lucky, but I want to say in 6 months, I think I knew I was on track to have the same salary that I had after
Isn't that
working,
amazing?
nearly a decade at Sony.
Wow.
So,
Um, that makes sense, but it also shows a lot of character in who you are. And I talk about manifesting and all the
yeah,
spiritual woo, but you mentioned before, like you put in the hours and you did the work. And I think once you've got that attitude and just who you are as a person, like you are a bit of a natural born potentially manifester, aren't you?
yeah, I definitely
You
am.
are, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're
cool.
one of those people that it's actually called lucky girl syndrome. And not everyone likes it. They're actually quite triggered. But it's something that I used to think, I'm so lucky. Like I would walk around and just have this attitude. And I'm pretty sure that that has really helped me generate
Yeah,
most of my business. It's crazy. It's not academia,
yeah, yeah.
it's really an attitude. So,
I totally agree. I think the power of positivity is completely underestimated in
yeah,
life. And
yes,
I mean, in a work life, definitely.
yeah,
And we're both really positive people. And I think our positivity rubs off and
yeah,
people think of you favorably because you are positive. And I mean, I work
yeah,
in PR, so I need people to think of
true.
me favorably. And I think just being positive brings, as I say, positivity breeds positivity, negativity breeds negativity. And that's across the board. Like my sister's just personal thing. She's just been diagnosed with breast cancer and she's being treated for it right now. But her attitude is unbelievable. I didn't realize, but I think she's actually the most positive person I've ever met.
My
And
God.
I've just been watching her sail through all of her treatment. And, you know, she had surgery and she had such a great attitude about it. And then now she's just started radiation this week. And, you know, she's like, oh, I'm like, how are you going today? And she's like, oh, I'm going into radiation half an hour early so I can have a coffee and a cookie and have some time to
Oh,
and make it a positive thing. And I'm like, you are amazing. And I think that attitude is helping her smash
wow.
this. Yeah, I
That's
really,
incredible.
even down to health things, you know, being positive is that mindset is powerful beyond words.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And I know that it's hard, like it doesn't come naturally. And sometimes you have to really do the work if you're having a hard time. It makes total sense. But
Mhm.
it's so powerful to intentionally bring that into your world if you can.
Absolutely. And even if you start small with, like, as you said, I'm so lucky. Gratitude. Why do I feel lucky today? What am I grateful for? Even on a tough day, hey, I've got a great dinner that I'm preparing. How lucky is it? Yeah, how lucky am I to have, access to good nutrition, or whatever that is that you can cling to and feel grateful for that day.
Yeah, especially in this industry, which is one of the reasons I started this podcast. Well, the biggest reason was because I wanted to shine a light on all the amazing things that were happening. There's so much doom and gloom, and there really is. And I feel like my job is to shine a spotlight on how extraordinary and wonderful it is, and especially to some of the great people in this industry. And that's what keeps me positive, or I'd be like, this is too hard.
See, and you're amazing. And that's that, I think of you so fondly, and you're a bright spark, you're that sunshine every time we chat. And I think that's something that everyone would think of you. But that would then both look at your life, you're happy and you've got a wonderful life. You deserve it. And you've manifested it and you deserve it. And
okay.
you worked for it.
I've worked hard. I put in the hours. Okay, so let's talk about, this is exciting. I want to hear a standout moment that you've had with working with one of your artists, and why. What was happening? Because I know you've had some pretty extraordinary artists, and I froth on some of the work that they did in music. And tell us about something.
You're the best. I'm lucky. I have had heaps of great experiences. Some that are meaningful for different, they're all meaningful for different reasons, but there are heaps that I could chat about. I'll say quickly. I remember working, this is in my Sony days, and I was in Perth at the time. I was working with the Irish band The Script.
Okay.
Yeah, we were taking a song to radio, and radio just weren't into it. It was a bit of a slog, and the team, the direction from above was like, no, this is a hit. This is, we need to keep at it. And so we kept at it and kept at it. And then when we got it away, it was huge. It went massive. It was like #1 airplay for, I think I want to say 8 or 10 weeks. It was decent. And then when they came to Australia to do a promo tour, Perth was first stop. And I picked them up, and I remember we were at the airport for like 2 hours because the band, it was like they had just started popping off, full stop, let alone around the world. So they was an Irish, so friendly, so beautiful. They had to shake everyone's hand. They couldn't believe that there were fans at the airport waiting. They were like, how did they know we were coming? Like, it was their first, I felt like I was there for that first time that they'd seen that they were making it. All of their dreams were coming true. They were on the other side of the world. And there were like, 50 fans at the airport. It wasn't even like a massive thing, but there were fans there that had waited for them for however long, knowing that they were coming to Australia, not knowing the exact flight times or whatever, and they were waiting there. So they talked to all of them. It was really beautiful. So that's definitely something that I go, because now they're doing, they're touring Australia, playing arenas or stadiums, I think in November. So they're definitely, I got to be there for that very first moment, and that band would only have that once. And that was that glimpse, and I felt like I was a fly on the wall for that, which was very special.
So good.
But I think probably if there's one thing, and it's small scale, but it was back when I first started, I remember I was doing promo with, back then they were called RUFUS, but obviously RUFUS Du Sol. And
about RUFUS.
Yeah, they were RUFUS. And we were doing promo, and they jumped in my car, and I remember John saying, oh, I'm really hungry. I haven't had lunch. So I was like, oh, you go to your next interview. I'll run and grab lunch. And so I ran in, grabbed grilled burgers on it. Grilled, just an easy, like fairly, very, very affordable lunch. And then years later, they became RUFUS Du Sol. They're amazing. Their trajectory has been incredible. And I feel very grateful to have been along for the ride and watched on and worked with them the whole time. They're very loyal and beautiful humans. And then I think we might have been at Sydney Myer Music Bowl, or maybe even Flemington Racecourse, one of the shows backstage. And John said to me, this is not that long ago, John was like, hey, thanks. I remember that time you bought me grilled. That was really kind. And I was like, what? That was so sweet. And for me, that moment was really lovely, because I hadn't even remembered it, It's what we do as businesses. If we're on the road, they only have a quick break to eat. And he really clocked that. And, they'd already won Grammys, I'm pretty certain, by the time he said that. And he still remembered that I bought him lunch. Like, it was just so sweet.
That's such a cool
And I mean,
story.
you're John from Rufus, but they're real people too, right? And they have
Yeah.
real memories. And obviously that was before they had won Grammys when I bought him lunch. And that was a big deal for a music artist that,
Yeah.
the earning capacity then was, it was there, but they weren't hitting those, they
Yeah.
weren't what they were earning. They didn't have the numbers that they have now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was more meaningful than I ever realized. And it's very sweet to be on that.
I
memory.
love that.
Yes.
That story.
Yeah.
What do you think? I guess this is, I wanted to ask you this question. What do you think sets a really great artist apart when it comes to PR? Like, if someone is to send you something and you're like, yep, this is going to be amazing. Like, what is it that an artist needs to have before they go out and smash it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they're ready for PR. Yeah, that's a great one. I guess when you're ready to start, when are you ready as an emerging artist to start speaking on your team to get your music heard? And I think that comes down to the music, the quality of the music.
Yeah.
And then for me, I curate my roster based on if I can justify my fees. We cap our roster, so we only work with a certain artist.
That's right.
So it's we all vote on our indie artists as well if we're going to take it on, because it is a big investment for us. We put a lot of hours in, and
I bet.
But it's also a fee that they have to pay, and that's a lot of money for an indie band to pay. So it just has to work for everyone.
Yeah.
So by the time you're ready, I think for me, it's about the quality of the song. I feel like the song speaks still. It's still the loudest for me. It's all about the music.
Yeah.
And I'll also deep dive on, their engagement on socials and how active they are, who's talking about them.
I love this.
I'll do a quick Google as well to see if anyone if they're familiar in the market, if any media have spoken with them or supported them or reviewed them, been to a gig, who they're touring with, even if they're playing live shows. Are they playing live shows? Who are they supporting? And just to see how seriously the band or the artist is taking it. And I can get a pretty good read on how seriously they're taking it. It's just like, and this is the same as what media do too. When you're going for radio ads, they're looking at all of these things because there's only a finite amount of space on our roster. There's only a finite amount of space on playlists that they're curating or radio for ads on radio. And we all want the same thing. We all want to give that opportunity to the band or the artist that wants it, has the talent and the drive and the humility as well. I think that's a really important one. To go after it and have a really good shot at it, and for it to be viable. Like, if we give this spot to them, is this going to help them on their career and help them get to that next level, get them that exposure, so that we are, they're not just going to be a one release and done. Find the budget, get it there. Great, we did it, we're done. We really want to see that they've got a plan to stick around and be a fixture in the music industry.
And I guess most of the artists you're working with have managers, or not all of them?
Our indies would probably never have a manager. We go super indie for that spot on the roster. And that's where we kind of take on management for them for that month. And we really give them that. We don't take on management, but we just
I know what you mean.
Act as manager in terms of introducing them to booking agents and whoever else it is that they need on their team, or giving them guidance on the industry, timelining a plan for them for release into album or whatever it is.
That's interesting. Because it's obviously quite an expense when it comes to buying everything that you need, including, like, we see it, and it's such an investment, this industry.
It's an investment. I mean, these artists, I really don't it's tough. I would struggle being an emerging artist, looking at down the face of the barrel of what they need to do. They need press shots with a photographer that's going to get them a quality press shot. They need to get an artist on board, or a digital artist that can create their single artwork. They need to get in with a distributor so that their music can just be put on the platforms. There's so many steps, involved in releasing. Artists come to me and go, hey, we've heard about PR. We don't really understand what it is, but we spent 10 grand on an EP. We feel like we should get it heard. And then I talk to them about what the next steps are on, okay, I've got this EP, what can I do now? And there's so much involved. The artist can't just be the artist anymore. They have to be their own manager. They have to be their booking agent. They have to be their marketer. They have to be their publicist. They have to wear so many hats. They can't just be the artist anymore. And that's tough.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
tough. It's exhausting, I guess.
It is, because it's harder to cut through the noise now more than ever, because we have this, streaming is excellent, that all artists can access it. Anyone can put a song on a streaming platform, but then
Yeah.
how do we cut through the noise? You've got
Yeah.
to have the quality of your song and your recording. You've got to have the quality of your assets moving into release. You need great press shots to be engaging. Have you got enough budget for video? Maybe if you can't do an official video, maybe you're going to do some short reels for socials.
Yeah.
You need to clean up your socials. You need to have someone give you that guidance to realize that, you know what, I shouldn't be talking about what I had for breakfast yet, because I'm unknown in the industry and people don't really care what I am having for breakfast. But I want to know what Beyonce is having for breakfast, so I thought I'd copy. But no, not until you're at that level do we care what you're eating for breakfast.
It is part of this. It's strategy, right? So that's another part of it, and not everyone gets strategy, so it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, and so I think it's great to always just. I feel like indie artists, emerging artists, should reach out to anyone in the industry that they know
Yeah,
to
and
get that advice. I get calls all the time, and then I can give a quick explanation on where to from here. And often an artist will say, oh, we're so not ready. We just don't have the budget for it. Okay, we need to apply for some government grants to find the budget, or we're just going to release it on our own. And if it's a great release, and an indie says that to me, I'll often say, oh, that kills me, because you've spent 10 grand on this EP. It's not going to get heard if you think you're just going to go and release it on your own. It is worth finding that money to get it heard, to find your audience. And if you just put it on DSPs, you're still, there's a very slim chance that it's going to really do anything. You still need to let people know that it's there.
Yeah.
And people other than your friends and family, and, people like the old school way, you used to, if you had a live show, when I first started, if you had a live show, I remember from my boyfriend's band back then, we'd all be texting our friends going, hey, do you want to come buy a ticket?
Yeah.
Really, you had to literally get onto everyone.
Champion.
And then I remember I was working with Holy Holy on an album and a tour run with them. And I remember Oscar Dawson said to me, oh, that show was great. The ratio of strangers to familiar faces in the audience was finally out of our, in our favor.
Right.
More strangers than friends and family. And I remember that was such a cool thing. Now they would have all fans.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the band's trajectory, right? Which is so cool to sit in on.
It reminds me too, like, you do something for so long, people don't realize how long. Like, I'll just quickly, we've got a couple of questions left, but with Fisher, like that recent experience in Queensland, which I of course watched and just loved. I was just celebrating so hard because I love him. I love his music because I'm a DJ, but he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So is that something that you notice as well? Like, sometimes you don't see the effort and then all of a sudden there's this killing it.
Yes. I remember I wrote in an Amy Shark press release once, everyone was calling her an overnight success years ago now, but it was like, we kind of changed the narrative there to be overnight success, a lifetime in the making.
Yeah.
Right? Because these people, these artists haven't just written this song that's popping off. They've been slogging it. And I think Amy's a great example, because she speaks very openly about how for 10 years or 8 years, she played to 8 people in the pub.
Yeah.
And then I remember we worked that tour that she went on, I think it was 62 dates. And then I went to the Rod Laver one that was pretty much the arenas were at the end of the run. And I remember, she says that to her audience. This will never not be lost on me, because this will never be lost on me, I should say, because she's used to playing. She got so familiar with playing to no one that playing to an arena full was just bliss. It's the gratitude there. She's always, I feel like she's really grateful for her audience, because she did those hard yards, playing in pubs regularly every week to very few people. And most bands will have that same story. It's pretty rare that, that whole, it really does offend me when anyone says, oh, overnight success. no one is ever an overnight success in music. They've
No.
worked at their craft, like maybe playing piano from age 8, doing grades, and then becoming creative with it, and then, you know, starting a band maybe in teens, to writing music that maybe is getting heard, to popping off. What's that? That's like 15 years of work on their craft. So yeah,
So true.
I don't feel like anyone's ever an overnight success.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves.
And I think the other thing about that too is even when it does start to pop and now you're busy and you're touring, there's a different problem. Like everything has its challenges. It's like, I wanted this, but now I'm exhausted and I'm not seeing my family and I can't really have my child around, or there's different challenges, and mental health is a huge issue, which is
Yeah.
something I, work with in my business a lot. And I think that's one of the things that I really wanted to shine a light on in this as well, is how like you can really go into a dark hole with your mental health, I think, in this industry. So
Yeah.
what would you say around giving people, I guess, some insights around how to stay not confident so much, but like what's the word I'm looking for? Like motivated and excited when it all feels quite hard.
Good question. I mean, I feel like this industry has, so that it's like a roller coaster, and even 12 years in, we're really lucky that we are. Yeah, we're very busy, but there are still periods where I check in with my mates and we go that are also doing what I'm doing, and I'm like, hey, is it quiet for you? It's pretty quiet for me.
Yeah, yeah.
What's going on?
Oh,
And especially with all the festivals having
of
festivals,
course.
Australian festivals are really struggling right now, and
Yeah.
I see that, and no one really knows how to combat it or how long this is going to last or where to from here. And that worries me as well, because we work on so many festivals. So if festivals aren't, if they don't have the confidence to announce, then all of a sudden that's a big client of ours that we
Yeah.
aren't able to rely on. So even though, I guess even though people might think, oh, that person's flying and look how successful, I feel like we all go through ups and downs. It's a roller coaster.
Of course.
Music industry in Australia, there are quiet times. And I think I've just come to the point of, I just have to embrace it if it's a little bit more quiet, because usually I'm run off my feet. So I need to go, right, it's not forever. I trust that it's going to get back to being busy again. And maybe I'm going to lean into this and have some more hours for me. Because what are hours for me? They're
I
rare
love that.
these days. So
Self-care.
now I'm trying to jump in on that and be okay with that.
Yeah.
It's probably taken me a decade to get there.
Wow. That's super. You're there. You're getting there. That's amazing. And so, okay, so to finish off today, what would be three words that sum up, I guess, just how you feel in the industry now and what you would tell yourself if you were 20 years younger? What would you say? What are three things you would tell yourself about being in the industry?
20 years on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20 years on.
I would tell myself that you're going to do fine. I know as 20-year-old me, I remember when 21-year-old me, I would go into radio and service Sony songs, and I felt really, and I've always been loud and confident and bubbly, but I still had that underlying self-doubt,
Yeah.
in that I was 21 going into radio, commercial radio, telling these music directors that were a decade older than me at least, why they should add these songs. And I kind of had this attitude of, but why would they listen to me? In the back of my mind, I never presented that.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm like, why would they listen? And then I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm still not a coffee drinker. I sip tea. But even back then in meetings, if there were coffee meetings, I tried to drink coffee. I would order a coffee. And in the end, as I got older and I started owning the fact that, you know what, I'm in this job because I deserve to be in this job, I started ordering what I wanted to. And in my order is a strawberry milkshake every time. So then I was just like, yes, I'm
Love
ordering
it.
a strawberry milkshake. But when I was 21, I forced myself to try and drink a coffee
Right.
when I hate coffee.
Okay.
But that's because that's just that,
Yourself.
yeah. But it was just that fear of I'm young in this industry. Why should they respect me? I don't have any runs on the board. I'm 21 years old, telling them what to add these songs. But yeah, I think I would say just be you and push through that and have that confidence, because there's a reason you're in the job and you're going to do fine.
Oh, that's the best. Why do I want to cry now? Okay. I love that.
What else? And 2 other things. Do I need 2 other things?
You've got 3 minutes left. So
all right. No pressure.
No pressure.
I would say you're not going to believe you're going to work with your 16-year-old childhood crush regularly on PR, and they're going to become friends of yours.
Okay.
That's funny. I used to sneak into pubs to see motor race when I was a kid. And well, I sneak in, yeah, but then in the end, I got a key pass cut from my sister's ID, which was really kind. So I was able to go legally-ish.
I love it.
Yeah, so then we started working the PR with them when they reformed, and I remember being like, this is so strange. It was a real surreal moment.
Wow.
A band that you really love, an integral band for me that really got me into loving music. It was definitely Motor Race. And now, you know, Damo Costin, who's the drummer, has been in music thick and fast, and he works for Live Nation, and he he sends me work, and I'm like, wow, I never would have foreseen.
That's so cool. Isn't that funny? Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
3 things.
They're 2 pretty good ones. They are. You could, well, you could tell us something you'll tell your future self. I do this all the time. If you were 80 years old and you're there on your deck chair overlooking I don't know where you'll be, the ocean with your family.
The ocean, definitely the ocean.
What are you going to say to Emily, who's sitting on this podcast right now?
Yes.
That was so important that you needed to hear. What is she saying?
You are still young, and utilize that youth.
Yes.
I really feel like it's so easy, because I've just turned 40. I feel like it's so easy to go, oh, I've turned 40. I'm really halfway done now. But I actually am as strong as I've ever been, as fit as I've ever been. I, have had more time working on myself. I'm as experienced as I've ever been.
Yeah.
I'm like in the prime of my life.
You are, girl.
And I have to remember that, right? Because it's so easy to go, I'm 40 now, I'm over the hill, and I'm working in music. Am I aging out of the industry?
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to work in music for much longer. I'm 40 now. And it's really easy for the mind to say these things.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't believe those things. I know that I am as experienced. I've got more knowledge on the industry than I've ever had. I've got more runs on the board. And yeah, health-wise, I'm stronger than I've ever been, fitter.
Yes. It just,
remind ourselves.
Affirmation is it just gets better and better every day. It gets better and better and better.
It does. It really does. And my mom's really positive, and she every time she has a decade, she's like, this is my favorite decade yet. And it's so awesome. And she's like, she's in her 70s now, and she's like, oh, turning 70, it was so great.
I love
and
her.
So, me turning 40, she's like, you're turning 40. They were my favorite years of my life. And I'm like, I thought you said your 70s were. She's like, and they were too. They are too, I should say.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. So you've got some good mentors.
Positive mentors.
It's been I knew this would be fun with you, like doing a podcast. And I just have enjoyed all of your stories and your energy, and I'm grateful that you said yes, and I can't wait to share this with the world and your story and hear all about what you're going to do with Kid Leroy on tour and all of the things that are coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I can't believe I'm guest 1. You are the best. Thanks.